As you know, the Noxious Blightbringer is one of the nicest and most useful Death Guard units. It's the sort of unit that you're always going to want to have one of them in your army list. So, since you're probably going to have one of them around 60 points elite, mainly there for its auras, I'm Andrew from ATC Studio, and I'm going to be telling you exactly how to make the best use of this and the top tips and tricks for making the best out of this one elite model. Now, of course, although it is mainly there for the auras and not really there for the fire, support, or melee, it's worth remembering that that is still there, and it can still do a little bit of help. Plasma pistol, of course, don't overcharge it. It's not worth it unless it's like one wound and it's like the deciding shot of the whole game, but that is of course very unlikely. The plasma pistol, just take it one shot, 7 -3 1 for a bit of support, and don't really charge it because you don't really want them to fight back and do a lot of damage to it. However, of course, if you're just fighting some Gretchen or cultists and there's only like 1 or 2 left in the squad, or this is just against something really light that's probably going to die, but just in case they don't die, you might as well like charge this as well as your Plague Marines or Terminators or whatever, just to make sure that the enemy is eliminated, of course. And of course you have the blight grenade, which is of course quite useful against hordes, so remember to make use of it. But that is of course not why you will put this one around 60 point elite in your list. It's mainly going to be there for the auras. So first of all, I think the most important one is that where each Death Guard unit with 7 inches, when it advances, you roll 2 dice and discard the lowest when determining the distance, which is of course really nice because it means that your army might get into melee 1 turn earlier, get on that objective 1 turn earlier. Even though it's only a couple of inches, it does make a lot of difference. And when you actually think about it, having your Death Guard unit in melee that turn earlier, having it being able to shoot that turn earlier, having it on that objective that turn earlier, that is going to make quite a big difference to the game. Of course, you could put on it Frugus' Hound to make that 10 inches, but it's not really worth. And of course, things like the Foul Blightspawn's aura are probably more important. Furthermore, as a nice little touch, enemies get subtracted from the leadership, Psychers even more so. But of course, unfortunately, that doesn't make much of a difference because with Psychers, they're not likely to take a morale test because they're very unlikely to be in units. But if you are fighting big hordes, that one leadership, if you kill a lot of them, remember that's effectively going to be 1 extra cultist dead, so makes up a few points of enemy killing just from that on certain occasions, which of course quite nice to have. However, there's not really much point protecting this too much. Like, don't bring Death Shroud Terminators just to protect a Noxious Blightbringer. Although, of course, if you do have Death Shroud Terminators to protect a Demon Prince or Chaos Lord or Foul Blightspawn, you might as well also put this in the mix. And of course, if you're going for that Death Ball and you've got quite a lot of characters, then of course you might want to bring the Death Shroud if you're protecting Foul Blightspawn, Taliban, Plaguecasters, Chaos Lord, Demon Prince, and a Noxious Blightbringer, and maybe like a Blood of Crucifier or something. Then there's no harm sticking the Noxious Blightbringer in there and putting that in the mix of things that are protected by the Death Shroud. Don't bother spending on Cloud of Flies on this. It's not that important. It's only around the 60 point model that's just going to give you a bit of extra support. You could of course give it the relic. That means all friendly Death Guard units within 7 inches get a 5-up invul. Now, although this doesn't make too much difference, it will help with Plague Marines. And of course, unfortunately, it doesn't affect Poxwalkers, which would be really nice, but unfortunately, it doesn't. It will certainly help your Plague Marines a bit. Of course, if you're going for that big Death Ball style, having everything, having a minimum of 5 invul will really help. And of course, you've also got other stuff like other relics that make demon engines get 4-up invuln that you can use on anything, but you're probably more likely going to use, because if you've got lots of vehicles which you might want to protect, they're more likely going to be demon engines. However, of course, you can always have this with the rhinos, of course, also land raiders, defilers, all of those having 5-up invuln, particularly if you also spend the CP to give them 5-up feel no pain, and you can effectively have a Chaos Land Raider that has a 5-up invuln and a 5-up feel no pain, so it really fits with the resilience of the rest of your army, which is also, of course, really nice. Now, Noxious Blightbringer isn't super resilient, but it isn't too bad. I wouldn't really worry about that too much. I just keep this with all your units as they move forward. I probably wouldn't put the relic on it. There are probably better options for relics. Of course, you could put the relic and Freebuster's Helm to make it 10 inches, but that doesn't, and also, of course, the advancing and the leadership, that's 10 inches, but that doesn't make too much. So it's definitely worth putting one of these in your armies, only around 60 points, so it's not too much of a harm, and it will always help, might get your things into melee in range or whatever a bit earlier, so quite useful. Of course, not as quite as useful as the Foul Blightspawn. That tactics video will be in the top right corner now. So I think that's about it for today's video. Noxious Blightbringer is quite a useful Death Guard unit. I've got one of these. I recommend putting one of these in your list. No need for like 3 of them. Use it as one of your elites slot. Of course, I was in the ASTC studio. Remember to like and subscribe. Check out my other videos. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to be putting every other day a video out. Lots of these I'll be going through every single Death Guard model, but I will of course have some variation about some other interesting stuff, so make sure to check that out. But for now, remember to like and subscribe. Bye.